Most of us grow up believing there's a timer running on our lives. We're taught that if you don't figure things out by your 20s, build your career in your 30s, and peak by your 40s, you've somehow fallen behind. That if you haven't made it by a certain age, you're out of the game. But what if that story is wrong? What if it's not too late? Not just to change your career, but to rediscover who you really are, to find meaning, purpose, even passion. After the world has told you you're past your prime, here's the truth. Many people don't bloom early, they bloom later. And that's not a flaw, that's human. This rush to succeed early, it's unnatural. Society's obsession with prodigies, billionaires by 30, perfect timelines. It's not just misleading, it's damaging because it ignores something essential. Deep, meaningful growth takes time. Time to try and fail, time to wander, time to be lost. Some people don't make real progress until their 40s or 50s or beyond. Some don't discover their purpose until they've raised a family, survived a crisis, or simply had enough of pretending. And guess what? They weren't late. They were right on time for their lives. But what happens when you do feel late? When it seems like everyone else is ahead? When you followed all the rules, ticked all the boxes, and still feel disconnected? That's when it's time to begin again. Not from scratch, but from truth. Because creativity, reinvention, and growth, they're not reserved for the young. They're some of the most powerful tools for healing and rediscovering yourself later in life. It starts small. Maybe it's writing freely every morning just to hear your own thoughts again. Maybe it's taking yourself on little adventures, walks, movies, art museums, just to remember what joy feels like without needing a reason. Not because you're chasing another milestone, but because you're trying to come home to yourself. The world teaches us to be practical, to perform, to stay in line. And in doing so, many of us bury parts of ourselves just to survive. But creativity, especially later in life, isn't about producing. It's about remembering. And when you begin again, not to impress, but to reconnect, that's when something new begins. A second mountain. The first mountain is the one the world hands you. It's built on success, status, achievement. We're taught to climb it early, fast, and loud. But often, whether we reach that peak or fall short, we end up in a valley. A divorce, a layoff, a health scare, a quiet, aching burnout. Or maybe just the realization that you did everything right and still don't feel whole. But that valley isn't the end. It's the turning point. Because the second mountain isn't about winning, it's about mattering. It's built on commitment to something greater than yourself. A relationship, a cause, a calling. It's when your story stops being about achievement and starts being about meaning. And yes, that shift is uncomfortable. It usually follows pain, but it also leads to something deeper than happiness. It leads to joy. Happiness comes from what you get. Joy comes from what you give. And that's where everything changes, because whether you're 38 and exhausted from chasing the wrong dream, or 58 and wondering if it's too late to start over, it's not. In fact, you might be right on time. You might have more depth, more resilience, more wisdom now than you ever did before. And those are the qualities that lead to lasting fulfillment, not just flashy success. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are seasoned. You are rooted. You're allowed to begin again. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the shame. Because what if being behind just means you were taking the deeper path? Think about this. Trees that grow slowly often grow the strongest, and the deepest roots take the longest to form. Maybe you didn't become a millionaire at 30. Maybe you didn't write your book at 40. Maybe you've been lost, quiet, disconnected, or tired. That's okay. Start now. Not to catch up, but to live with intention. Start by asking, what brings me alive? Not what makes money. Not what gets applause, but what makes you feel real, useful, and free. Start small. Write something. Take a walk. Call someone. Say yes to what feels like sunlight. Say no to what drains your soul. Make space for a different kind of growth. The kind that happens after the world stops watching. The kind that happens inside. That's where the second mountain begins. Not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet decision. I want my life to mean something more. And it can. No matter your age, your past, or your pain. It's never too late. Not to change, not to create, not to forgive, not to fall in love with your life again. So let this be your invitation. Not to chase what you missed, but to build something better. The clock hasn't run out. The best chapters may still be unwritten. You just haven't climbed your second mountain yet. And that's not failure. That's hope. That's the beginning.